Welcome, everyone, to Find Away Voices and Draft to Digital series of live author events celebrating June Audiobook Month. Today is our last event in the series, and we are super excited because we saved the best for last year, folks. We have author Kyla Stone with us. Welcome, Kyla.
Hello, I'm happy to be here.
And our co-host, Kevin Tumlinson from Draft to Digital.
I'm also happy to be here.
Yeah, me too.
A little sad that we're coming to the draw of the whole thing. A little sad.
I know, me too. These have been
a lot. To do it again.
Yeah, that's right. Well, welcome, Kyla. We're so glad to have you today. And where we usually like to start, first, a little bit of housekeeping. Everyone that's here, we've got the chat going. We've got some members of Find Away Voices in there answering questions, things. But if you have a question for Kyla, please put it in the questions tab down in the lower right, and we'll be sure to get to them at the end of the program. So, very good. Well, Kyla, where do you want to start today?
I'm here to learn.
I'm here to learn.
Do what you want. So we generally start talking about craft, Kyla. So you can, I think you can give us some very good perspective on this. But let's start with just talking about, like, what's your general process? What's your writing process?
Yeah.
Okay. So I do think craft is really important. I try to, write the best stories that I can. I've used like Larry Brooks' story engineering, Save the Cat. So I do plot. The very first novel I ever wrote was when I was 17. I wrote my first 300-page manuscript, which was my honors thesis to graduate high school. But I wrote that with like no plot, no idea where I was going, just pants the whole way.
Yep.
And ended up having to cut like 150 pages of just, random story going off in directions that didn't end up working. And so after that, I was like, I do need to plot. So I do use story structure to plot things out, but I like the creative process as well. The things the serendipity that just kind of happens that you discover as you write. So when I plot stuff out, I usually only do like, say, a sentence or two per chapter. So that gives a huge range of, creativity that can happen during the actual writing of the first draft. And so it keeps it interesting for me. I think if I wrote out ahead of time every single thing that was going to happen, that when the actual story writing process, when it was time for that I would get bored. So for me, that's a good mix of knowing what I'm writing towards, like having the spine of the story like ahead of time, but still allowing some serendipity and some creative things to happen during the process.
That's pretty good advice. I think that's been my problem when I've tried to plot in the past. Dedicated pantser, right? And for me, it was always, I felt like if I plotted, then I lost the like energy of the story.
Right.
Like it felt complete, and so I didn't want to write it.
Yes.
Is that a problem for you?
Yes, and I think in that exactly, like if you write 3-4 pages per chapter in your plotting, then there's nothing new, fresh, or exciting for you to discover as an author.
Right.
And I think that does come through on the page for me anyway. I need to have some kind of surprise still happening as I'm writing.
Yeah.
Some discovery.
Yeah. It's just, there has to be, right? Yeah. What's the phrase? If you're bored as the writer, they'll be bored as the reader.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
So do you have like little rituals and things that you practice for your writing? You like certain things going on in the room when you're writing?
So I listen to music.
Okay.
I love to listen to music, and I have different Spotify soundtracks. One thing I do that will drive my family crazy is if I'm writing a scene or a chapter, I will listen to the same song over and over again. Yeah. So, I just put it on repeat. If it gets me in that mood, it has the beat, it has whatever I need for that entire chapter. Yep. I listen to the same song until I'm finished. So my kids will be like, so I heard like 100 times Imagine Dragons Bones today. Like, I'm so sick of that song, Mom. I'm like, sorry. Like,
yes. I do that for fight scenes.
Yes, fighting action scenes especially, or like dramatic, high emotion scenes like that you need to get in a certain mood for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a big ritual for me.
I always kick off with a little Nina Simone Sinnerman. Every time I sit down to write, I pop that on. Yeah. Music going along with your writing is fantastic. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So is that
and coffee? I'm big coffee drinker the whole time.
I can always tell a kindred soul. You had that slightly caffeinated spirit.
Yes.
So what's are you a morning writer or an afternoon writer? Nighttime?
I am not a morning person. So I do try to get up and get writing by 10, but I cannot get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning and write. Like I'm dead.
Yeah.
Like I'm a zombie in the morning. Like my kids are like, stay away from mom before like 9 o'clock in the morning and 2 cups of coffee. But I can stay up till like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and write. So I would say definitely not early morning.
Or technically early morning, just starting from the other side of it. Like you're the earliest of early mornings.
Yes. Yeah. If I'm still writing at 2 a.m., I'm like, yeah, it's morning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No wonder you can't get up till 10.
Yeah, definitely a night owl.
Kyla,
go ahead.
Kyla,
Scott, I didn't know if you had something.
I'm curious, like writing in the genre that you do you have like an approach to your character development? Like how do you do that?
Character development is like I write characters that I like to read about. I like really complex characters. I like characters that are flawed, that have weaknesses that they have to overcome, demons or stuff from their past that they have to work through. So I always have those kind of characters in my book. And I think with like post-apocalyptic, world-ending, disaster type things, it's a great opportunity to have huge character growth in your characters because they are facing like life and death situations and like extreme moral and ethical situations too. Yeah. Like your kids haven't eaten for 3 days. Are you going to steal from your neighbor to feed your kids? You know, where are your ethical boundaries when everything's on the line? Yeah. I think that creates a great atmosphere for characters like taken to the edge, which I really enjoy. Like, who are you when there are no rules anymore? Like, there's no society, there's no consequences of being arrested, for example. Are you still moral and ethical, or are you going to do whatever it takes to survive? Like, I think those are really interesting questions that I like to explore with my characters.
I agree. That's good story right there. Yeah. Like, that's the stuff, and it goes deeper than just entertainment too, because it does allow the reader to sort of question, like, well, what would I do in that situation?
Exactly.
Yeah. Very good. So, what's the okay? We're talking about craft, but let's expand a little to the more practical stuff. Like, for you, what's a book? How long is a book? When do you know a book is finished? I didn't mean for that to be a stumper. I'm sorry.
Did we lose her?
Oh, we may have lost her.
Yeah, she looks like she's a little frozen.
She's either very deep in concentration or she has frozen. There she is. She seems
there
back.
She is.
Are you back?
We heard you for a second. Oh,
okay. Well, that happens sometimes. So we're going to work on getting her back in.
Yeah.
Let's see if she. So we had a little bit of trouble just before the broadcast as well. So we're going to keep an eye out and see if she pops back in. In the meantime, I mean, I posed a question. Maybe I should give an answer. Let's ask each other that question.
There you go,
Scott. Well, for you, what's a book?
For me, what a book length is what the story needs to be served well.
Okay.
You know, so it depends on the story that you're writing.
Do you have consideration for things like what's the market looking for?
Yeah, I think if you're writing within a genre and you take a look at the other books inside that genre, what the average length seems to be.
Yeah.
You want to be like your genre. But then again, we live in a whole new world where an ebook length can be whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, that's true. Seth Godin said that effectively. You know, he said the nature of what a book is has changed. You know, because now in the world we live in, like for decades, we lived with a definition of what a book was that was established by traditional publishing primarily, and based primarily on what their cost and overhead was going to be to produce that book, right? Yeah. But when you're working in nothing but pixels and you got no real limitations, a book can be any length you want. So, you know, a book becomes whatever it takes, as you said, to tell the story, to encapsulate the idea.
Yep.
I do aim for mine. I aim a lot toward what is considered a typical length for my genre, which is primarily thrillers. But I also, when I first started this whole thing, I used the definition from the guys at NaNoWriMo, right? Because I had read No Plot, No Problem before I ever knew what NaNoWriMo was. I read No Plot, No Problem, and they said, you know, we had to pick. Basically, they said we had to pick a length. We had to pick a definition for book. And so we said, write your novel in 50,000 words. There she's back. Okay, everybody. Guys. You can all relax. You don't have to listen to me pontificate anything.
Yeah, I know. Kevin and I were just riffing.
I'm sorry. I'm a bit rural, and occasionally, once in a while, internet just goes out, and I was like, why now? Why now?
That happens all the time, and it's no problem. You're fine. So I don't know what the last thing you heard was.
We were talking about characters.
Okay.
Yep.
And how great the post-apocalyptic scenario was for creating good characters and questions that the reader asked themselves, and then I was out.
So just before you dropped out, or as you dropped out, and Scott and I have been discussing this amongst ourselves, so it would be good to get your perspective.
Yeah.
We were discussing like what actually is a book? Like how long should a book be in your mind, and how do you determine that, and how do you know it's finished?
Good question. So my Edge of Collapse series, all 7 books are between probably 75 and 85,000 words. Like they just all kind of like ended at a good time. The series I'm doing now, I'm on book 2. It's 140,000 words. Wow. I was like, how did this happen?
It's a tome.
That's a leap.
I know. I was like, we're cutting. Like we're doing something.
Taking you back to your high school, exit days.
Yes. Yeah. You have to have an arc. And you have to give your readers a satisfactory ending, which can be difficult to figure out in a series because you have your whole series arc, right? And then, but each book has its own story within, like smaller arcs leading up to a big overall arc for your series.
Yeah.
I think each book has to present a problem, and then you have to solve that problem. And then your character also has to face and overcome some inner struggle, weakness, demon, also within that story, and learn and grow. And then again, if it's a series, there's smaller problems that they're facing. And then there's also like an overall like big bad guy, right?
Yeah.
That they're not going to face or not going to defeat until, say, the last book in the series. And that danger keeps escalating and getting more and more intense with each book. But I do think you have to give the readers something that satisfies them, some part of the story that is tied up at the end of each book. Otherwise, it won't feel satisfying.
Yeah.
You're satisfying, like each course, right? It's like a course of a meal. You have 7 courses. Each aspect has some satisfying part of it, but you're getting more, right?
Yeah.
As the story progresses. I hope that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's a much better answer than either Scott or I gave.
That's much better.
So I'm always curious because I will confess I am a fan of post-apocalyptic fiction. I don't write it. I mean, I think I've maybe written something that could be considered that, but that's not the draw for me. But I do enjoy those stories for some reason. And what is it you think is attractive about the end of the world, or just after the end of the world for readers?
I think we touched on it a little bit when we were talking about characters, which is you are bringing your characters to the brink,
Yes.
right? Life or death questions, morality questions, like really, like who are you when everything else is stripped away? And I think that people are fascinated by that idea. I think people are interested with disasters of any kind, small and large. And, what would I do in that situation? Would I know how to survive? Could I purify water? Could I find food without poisoning myself with botulism? Whatever, like, could I face down a bad guy? Would I have the courage to do that? I think we like to live that out in the comfort of our own house on our couch, right?
Yes.
We like thinking about it, but also being safe.
Yeah. Soft apocalypse.
Not living it. Nobody wants to live it, but I think those kind of ideas are very primal. And I think that's something that appeals to people.
That's cool.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, fiction in itself is escapism, and that's just sort of what it was always. Not in totality. I mean, fiction serves other purposes in our culture, but that type of fiction in particular has always been kind of fascinating to me. It's like, what is the draw? What is it? And I think it's exactly what you said, and you were right. We already answered that question, really. So But loop back around.
So Kyla, when you're writing, no, we lost her again.
That's okay. That's okay. So, what question were you asking her?
Well, I was gonna ask her about does she think about the audio version, as she's writing. I want to see.
Okay, we definitely want to get her to answer that. So what we're gonna do is when we get her back, because we will, because I have faith.
Yeah.
We'll ask her all about audiobooks, and then I'm interested to hear her take on marketing too. But we can talk a little bit about author marketing, just to kind of keep things rolling.
Absolutely.
I of course think about marketing quite a bit. You do too. I mean, that's our roles.
What we do
with our respective companies. But I saw someone post on Twitter today. An old friend of mine posted on Twitter that he wanted to figure out marketing, and I'm going to try to do this justice. I want to figure out marketing so that my kids can start benefiting from what they create now rather than later, which I thought was an interesting kind of take. Yeah. So basically, he's saying you can create and you might benefit from it eventually, but if you are good at the marketing part, you can start benefiting from it now. Like, marketing is what enables you to enjoy your creation now. And I think that extends further too. I think that goes to the audience. I remember interviewing someone years ago, and I can't remember who she is right now. It'll come to me later, but she had said that, basically you have a kind of obligation as a novelist or any kind of author or painter or whatever to market your work, because you are creating this for an audience. And if you're not marketing, then you are not reaching that audience. So that's a why for marketing. That's why you should do it. Yeah. And the how is where people get hung up. And I've always had a definition of marketing that was marketing is ensuring that what you've created gets to the right audience at the time that they're most willing to buy or most able to buy. Yeah. And I still kind of operate from that principle. Even at this level, at marketing to authors, it's still the same, essentially the same.
Yeah. See, I've always looked at marketing as very much storytelling.
Yeah.
And, even like with my 7-year-olds, like I've really focused on helping him become a storyteller.
Yeah.
Because no matter what your role is in the world or what job you do, if you're a person that's good at telling a story and captivating someone's attention, you're able to go far.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And as storytellers, we should have a natural proclivity for it. But I think what happens is authors kind of fool themselves because they think marketing is hard, because a lot of people, there are people, you have to determine what is my particular strength and what are my weaknesses. Some people love numbers, love data, and that's their strength. And the misnomer is marketing, or authors will think, well, if I want to be successful, I need to shore up this weakness I have. If I'm no good with numbers and data, then I need to shore up that weakness so that I can get better and succeed. But that's not always the case. John Maxwell is a sort of thought leader on success, leadership, things like that. His whole thing was, if you were putting everything on a scale of like 1 to 10, and you can kind of accept the idea that if you're going to improve on something, you're probably going to improve by maybe like 2 points, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. But if you're weak in data, if you're weak on the point of data, and you're like a number 2, that means you would improve to like 4. But if your marketing strength is something like writing blog posts and doing TikTok videos and things like that, and you're an 8 there, well, you would improve to 10. So you're going to gain a lot more by improving on your strengths than on your weaknesses. So the idea is go find somebody whose strength is your weakness and get them involved. Find some way, trade of services, pay them, write something for them, whatever it takes. But
when we were talking to Eddie Rice in one of these sessions, that was his advice too. Yeah. You're not a numbers guy, hire a numbers guy, partner up.
Yeah. For those just tuning in, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I saw your note and I immediately wanted to respond because sorry, Kyla is having some internet issues. And so she's dropped off, and we're on the lookout, and we're hoping she'll be back. But until then, I hope we can bring some value to you. Thank you for tuning in. We're going to do our best to make sure that you get something of value out of the webinar, regardless. And we might just have to do a do-over with Kyla at some point.
We may have to do that because
this is our last day for the audiobook,
right?
So, yeah.
Oh, well, she did say she's in a rural area and that her internet does go out.
Yeah.
So
that happens.
Problems. Yeah, it happens. Yeah.
What we could do, everyone, is down. If you look down right now, bottom right corner of your screen, there's a little tab that says questions. And if you want, you can ask. We can't necessarily give all the questions to Kyla at this point, but if you ask some questions there, Scott and I can chat with you and hopefully help you out. And if it can be audiobook related, and it can be marketing or craft or anything you want. So ask us anything.
This has turned into an AMA with Kevin and Scott.
Yes, and that's okay. I'm used to doing this kind of stuff.
So. Yeah, me too.
No Janet says, I don't write sci-fi, but all the sessions have been great. Yeah. These and not everyone we interviewed was a sci-fi author.
No, Jamie Davis was a fantasy lit RPG.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, didn't we have see, everything's bleeding. I do so many webinars and podcasts, I can't remember who specifically was interviewed on this series. Podcasting, by the way, and these live streams and stuff, this has been a really interesting experiment over the past couple of years. It really amped up starting in 2020 for some reason that we won't go into. But I've done this for like more than a decade at this point, and I used to work in radio and TV and stuff like that. And it's really interesting the opportunities that come for authors when you're doing this kind of thing. If you are an author, if you have any opportunity to be on any podcast, I say go for it. And not just to try to sell books. In fact, my first podcast, or the podcast I was most known for, the Wordslinger podcast, I had started it in the hope that I would boost my own book sales. But the truth was I was speaking to an author audience instead of a reader audience, not necessarily totally off base, but it did give me an education just by being in contact with all these entrepreneurs and authors. I learned a lot from that experience. And then when I started going on podcasts, it was kind of the same thing. So like, you're not necessarily going to promote yourself or your work when you do a podcast, but it's always an opportunity to learn something new and give you some material to work with.
Yeah. I don't know about you. I've learned a lot from all these authors we've been talking to this month.
Yeah. Okay, we got questions popping in, but there's one in the regular chat from Mariah Stone that says, "I wonder, should we publish our books on Spotify?"
Well,
should we, Scott?
should we? Well, right now, Spotify does not have audiobooks.
Yeah.
But I do hear they're coming into that.
That's what I hear.
That's word on the street. They're going to be.
I'm going to say, and I'm not a representative of Findaway Voices, and so they have their own perspective on this. But I would say the moment that you can publish books on Spotify, you should. Anytime you have an opportunity to
go
do
wider.
something to go wide, you should go wide.
Absolutely.
I'm a little biased as the representative of Draft Digital, but let's look at some of the questions. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, we got one right here that I think would be good to answer.
And we're also keeping an eye out for Kyla.
Yeah, for Kyla. She'll pop out when she can. Jody Schurenberger, what are some of your favorite extras to include in your books and to discover in books you listen to? Well, Jody, I can tell you right off the bat, I'm a massive fan of alternate endings. And I wish more authors would do alternate endings. I just love if they went down this path and went down this path, how it ends differently.
It's like those old choose your own adventure books.
Oh man, that's what got me hooked on reading. Yeah. I love
same.
Those. Yeah.
That's fun.
Books. Yeah. It's got
I think something extra that I include in my books, in my print books at least, is something I call stuff at the end of the book, or a note at the end. It has evolved. It's now a note at the end because that sounded more authorly and professional. And it is a kind of author's afterword, but it might be specific about that book, or it might just be something I'm writing, kind of stream of consciousness about my writing process, whatever. And what I discovered was I did it a couple of times just for the heck of it. And it turned out to be one of the things that gets cited and quoted the most by my readers in reviews.
No kidding.
Like they really enjoy getting that behind the scene. I was always a huge fan of behind the scenes documentaries and stuff on DVDs. And that was kind of how I thought of that note at the end. Yeah. And turns out that is something readers really like. So
that's cool.
If you can include something.
Things we see, Jody, are little character stories, like kind of offshoot stories.
Yep.
Bonus content could be, bloopers from the narration. If you got your narrator, say, hey, can you put together a little blooper reel? Fans really like those too.
Yeah.
Deleted scenes, very common too. What you cut out of the book didn't make the final manuscript. It's always fun.
Well, let's grab another question.
Yeah, what else we got here? Okay, I got it.
Lots of people are liking your alternate ending suggestion.
Oh, really?
Which tells me that I need to give that a shot.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I don't know why more authors don't do it. I mean,
imagine this. You could do that as a short story separate from the book.
Yeah.
Authors. I'm talking to the authors in the crowd.
Yeah.
You could write a short story separate from the book and offer that as its own individual ebook for like 99 cents.
There you go.
Get the alternate ending for, I've got like 60 books. So.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, that stream.
See, okay. Back to marketing. That's marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. You're thinking about, other ways to increase engagement and increase, the odds that people are going to buy the next book or whatever. If people know that you've got a whole series of alternate endings that they can turn to and keep the adventure going, then you can have a lot of fun with that. What was you were going to ask one of the questions?
Oh yeah. See here. I think, Will actually answered it in the chat for us. So let's see here.
That's okay. We can read Will's answer and then add to it.
Well, Janet asked, I got a chirp deal for August. They are recommending that I lower my other audiobook for the deal as a way to increase sales. Does Findaway Voices do that for me? Well, we don't do that for you, but what Chirp is recommending is absolutely the way to go. So if you do get a Chirp deal, you're going to want to stair step your pricing on your other books. Stair step, you got that first book in series, say, is 99-cent Chirp deal. Make your second one $1.99, third one $2.99.
Yeah.
So on. You're going to have a lot more people purchase the full series then.
Yeah.
And want to have
that's what they refer to as a halo effect.
Yep.
Like someone buys that book, or you get a deal on Chirp or book club feature deal or something, and everybody checks out the free or cheap book, and then that you give them a place to go, and you make it as easy. You remove as many obstacles and as much friction as possible to get them into the next book. So, so it seems counterintuitive that you'll make more money by charging less, but this is one of those instances where that's exactly what can happen.
Yep. So it looks like Kyla might be back.
Let's see.
She is.
Hey.
So what we did is Scott put on a wig and just pretended to be you.
Awesome. I love it. I'm sorry I missed that.
Yeah.
All right. We're happy to have you back.
Comcast went down and it's having issues in our neighborhood, and my cell service is connected to Comcast as well, so I couldn't even get on my phone. So
okay.
Oh
man.
Hopefully we're okay now.
Now we've all learned some lessons. That's what's happening. Never put your phone service on the same service as your home internet.
That's the only thing that's the only option.
I totally understand.
There's benefits to rural living, but when you want technology, sometimes
Starlink will come to your rescue.
Yeah. Well,
true. I do have friends who use that.
Yeah.
Starlink. I need to look into it.
Yeah.
I will. I promise.
Well, let's hurry and answer some questions before.
I know we had some fun stuff come out of this though, Kyla, when you were gone. Alternate endings. I think we got a whole new thing here. I basically said I wish there were more alternate endings to books for bonus content.
Mm-hmm.
And Kevin had the thought. He's like, I'm going to go back through all my books, write an alternate ending, sell them for 99 cents a piece. Do you do any bonus content?
I have one bonus content at the end of Edge of Collapse is a 7-book series. And then after that ended, I wrote I think it's 4-chapter, like epilogue for after the ending of the book, and readers can't get it unless they join my newsletter. But then I offer them for free.
Yeah. Cool. That's good.
That's great.
So that's helped increase my newsletter subscribers. And then it's also something that's exclusive just for my super fans. And so I think they appreciate that as well.
Yeah.
Very good.
Cool. Well, before you popped off, we were about to move into audiobooks and wanted to, have you talk a little bit about audiobooks, how you got started in them, how you chose a narrator, publishing in all 3 formats. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with audiobooks?
Okay. Well, I know how important a narrator is. Like it can make or break a book. And like my husband and I, like we listen to audiobooks on road trips, for example, like every time we get in the car for more than an hour, let's put an audiobook on. We've like started like New York Times best-selling books, but the narrator just couldn't listen, right? And ended up turning it off. So I knew that the narrator was critical to an audiobook's success. So instead of doing on ACX or you can do auditions, right? You can put a call out for auditions. But I decided not to do that. What I did was I listened to a whole bunch of audiobooks and listened for narrators that I thought would fit the post-apocalyptic genre in my style of books well. Cool. So that's what I did. And then I reached out to like 3 different narrators and said, hey, I love what you did in this book and this book and this book. Would you be interested in working with me? And then narrowed it down to one, Stacy Glimboski. And I've used her for 14 audiobooks now.
Wow.
And my readers like really like her a lot.
Does she have a following of her own?
She's building a following. I mean, she's not like one of the huge narrators like R.C. Bray or whatever, but most of us cannot get that. We can't get the superstars.
What, you don't have R.C. on speed dial?
Yeah, I know. I wish. But she's very, very talented and she does well. Some of my audiobook reviews, like the narrator, she always gets 5 stars. Like they'll give me worse reviews for the story, but they like the narrator. So I'm like, okay, well, I did that part well.
Yeah. So while you're writing, are you thinking about the audio version at all? Do you read your manuscript out loud? Is that any consideration while you're writing?
I do sometimes read the manuscript out loud, and I think that's great for editing and revisions as well, because you catch a lot when you read it out loud or listen to it than when you're reading, right? It uses two different parts of your brain. Yeah. I have not changed my writing style for audio, except to make sure that the books are at least 10 hours in length. I think it was somebody from Findaway actually who told me that they looked at sales of audiobooks that were less than 10 hours and sales that were more than 10 hours. And it was like a 30 or 40% increase if you could get to that 10-hour mark. Because, a lot of, Audible is still like number one.
Right.
And with that subscription service, they feel like they're getting a better deal with that credit if it's more than 10 hours. So some of my earlier books are shorter, but really the last several, I've tried to at least get to that 10-hour mark, which is like 85, 90, 95,000 words, depending on how fast your narrator reads.
Yeah. I just put a little bit in the middle of the book that says pause for 1 hour. And then...
Can you speak slower in this one chapter just to get, I do have one book, 9 hours and 57 minutes. And I was like,
you don't think that's close enough? Do you think that matters, that 3 minutes?
Well, the thing is that readers will search. If you search based on time, there's a like 6 to 9 hours and 10, 14 hours and 17 hours and up. So they may not even see your book if they're only searching in 10 hours and up.
Yep. That's a good point.
So I do think you miss out on part of your audience if your books are shorter. Yeah,
which we're working to change. Findaway is working hard to change that. We all want that to change because you shouldn't have to. Credits are a terrible system. The credit system,
right, and I agree, and I like that Findaway allows you to choose your own pricing and do your own sales. Like that's the frustrating part with Audible, that you don't have control over any of that.
Yeah. Right.
So I do appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, no, for sure. So talking about audiobooks, is there something that you could tell, a new author getting into audiobooks? What have you learned? What kind of wisdom could you bestow upon an author that's getting into audio? What's maybe a lesson that you took away from it?
Okay. I pay up front for my narrator, pay per hour. And so then I don't have to do royalty share. Okay. And for me personally, I've earned out every audiobook within 3 to 4 months. Mm-hmm. I know there are some authors who are earning out within a couple of days, and that's fantastic. And other authors who might take 6 months or a year. But if you do narrator sharing, like you're giving up half of your royalties for the foreseeable future. Yeah. And it also means you don't have as many choices, right? So because I controlled my own audiobooks, I could move from ACX to Findaway, right? So if you have split with the narrator, then you don't have those choices to pivot when you see opportunities. Yeah. So I like to have that control, and I do think you make more money in the long run if you can pay up front. It is a significant amount to pay. Narrators do a really good job. They earn every penny of that for sure. Yeah. But if you can afford that up front in the long run, it increases your income and gives you more choices and control, which is what we as indie authors, that's what we like, right? That's why we went into this.
Yeah, you want to own your IP.
Anyways, right? You want to, be able to make those choices and have options.
Yeah. The more ownership you have over your intellectual property, the better that's going to work out for you in the end. And that's what this is when you're uploading to if you go to traditional publishing, you're definitely handing off a lot of your IP, but you're essentially handing off like a percentage of that intellectual property, not in terms of ownership, but in terms of revenue when you go to various storefronts. So the more you can control that, the better.
Yep, for sure.
He added nonchalantly. So
And I will say too, I did one book with Tantor, like 4 years ago. They gave me a $700 advance, and I have yet to make out that advance.
Yeah.
Because their royalties are so little. I think I make like 70 cents per audiobook sale, which is, they're charging $15, right?
Yeah.
So I have made a lot more income with the books that I have done and controlled myself.
Fantastic.
So, and yeah, unless they're offering you an amazing deal, I would not go with those companies and do it on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And we have the tools to do it on your own too. We released Find a Way Marketplace, and you can go audition your own narrators on there for free. Find the voice you like, takes you through the whole process.
Audition yourself. That's something you guys have, because you might be the reader for your book, or you might not.
Yeah. Or yes, and no, when you're not, right?
No, when you're not. Get the outside opinions.
Like, no.
Yep. I know. I auditioned myself for my book, and it was no. I lost the job. Yeah.
I auditioned myself, and I'm like, well, that sounds good, but that guy is pretty lazy about recording, so I don't know if I'm hiring him.
He's not going to meet deadlines.
He's not going to meet the deadlines. He's going to be like, I got books to write.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I love that. Well, let's get cracking here into marketing a little bit, since it's been about 40 minutes now. We'd love to know, what's your approach to marketing, Kyla? What are your thoughts on marketing? How do you get into it, and what are the things that you've found have been successful for you in your books?
Well, first, I think craft the best book that you can. Like, have the best story, the best product that you can, that's really going to appeal and reach readers, and so that they want to read more of your stuff. Because once you bring a reader in and they love that book, they're immediately going to go and look for what else you have. Make it easy to find your other books. So at the end of every book, I immediately have the link for the next book. Like this, here's book 2 right here. Here's the link. You don't even have to go to Amazon and search for it. You can just click right here, download it. Or if it's the end of a series, hey, here's the first book in my next series. As soon as that book ends, right there. I think that matters. Have a newsletter, have a link to the newsletter in the back of your ebook. So they can join in, and then you have direct access to them with emailing. Also advertising. I'm a big advertiser because I'm a big believer in advertising, because I am not a fast writer. There are a lot of writers who can write a book every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, and really work those Amazon algorithms in their favor. If you write slower than that, you really need to rely on advertising. So
that's very good. That's a very good piece of advice. Yeah.
And know what kind of writer you are, because if you can write a book a month, you may not really need to do very much advertising, because you just have the Amazon algorithms really working for you. But if you know that you're a slower writer, you may need to put more of your income into advertising. And I mostly do Amazon advertising. Facebook has always been difficult for me to figure out. And also in post-apoc, for Facebook, trying to advertise to fans of a certain author, there's generally not a romance writer who only writes romance. In traditional publishing, your big authors like Stephen King has The Stand, but then everything else he wrote is horror, right? Or Justin Cronin has the Passage trilogy, which is post-apoc, but it's also vampires, right? So you're not really getting that audience. Cormac McCarthy wrote The Road, which is amazing. Won the Pulitzer, great post-apocalyptic novel. That's the only novel in post-apoc that he has written. So it's very hard to, in my genre, to find Facebook audiences. So I've mostly done Amazon. But I'm also willing to spend 20, 25, occasionally even 30% of my income on advertising.
That's great.
Which is okay for me because, you know, I'd rather spend $10,000 a month to make 30,000 than
well, that's what I was going to ask.
Like, months to make 5, right? So I don't mind spending more money if it brings in more money.
Right. Yeah. Well, I was just about to ask you what the ROI typically is, and so it's for you. It's like what, 50 to sounds like it's maybe 150%.
Yeah, I guess. And it's hard too. Like once you have 15, 20 books, like you're spending more money to get that each reader.
Yeah.
But then that reader is going to go and read your other books. Yeah. So with your, you know, what the Amazon ad platform makes it look like you might be losing money hand over fist, right?
Yeah.
Like you're spending over $1 per click or whatever. I mean, those are terrible to look at.
Yeah.
But you're like, oh my word. But overall, when I see my income going up and my page reads going up and my sales, I know that reader that I paid quite a bit of money to bring in, but is then going and reading my other books.
Yeah.
Bringing everything up.
Yeah. That's cool.
Tell you what, just as an aside, one of the things I took as a sign of my success was when it became more expensive to target me as a name in ads than most of the people who write in my genre. I've made it.
I totally agree. You're like, oh man, I'm like $5 a click. I cannot afford to advertise.
I can't afford to target my own name in my ads. Right.
Yeah.
So.
And I feel like too, like when the ebook is doing well, that the audiobook sales follow along with it.
That's interesting. Why do you think that is?
Overall awareness, I think.
Okay.
Or like they're seeing the ads for the ebook, and then the audiobook, of course, is right there that you can click when they're looking at your sales page. I'm like, this looks interesting. I'm going on a road trip. I think I'll do the audiobook or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think overall awareness. And then if the audiobook has a sale and is doing really well, I see the ebooks go up too. So I think they work together with great synergy.
Because there's always the push is always, or what we talk about a lot. Maybe the Find Away guys are different. What I talk about a lot is that they can essentially be two very different audiences in the way that you market to them. Yeah. But I agree. I think I have seen that trend and just didn't really pay attention that there's a reciprocal relationship between the two. That makes sense.
I mean, that's why we recommend always publishing, all 3 formats at your launch.
Yeah.
Because you're going to take advantage of that. Don't leave the audiobook for later. I mean, if you can do it all at once, do it all at once.
I wish I had done that.
Yeah, I know. I was like, that's a great idea. I should start doing that.
Yeah.
Maybe what I should do is pull all my books down, go to 0 income for a year or 2, and
relaunch.
Come back.
Relaunch everything.
Yeah.
New covers. The whole night.
Now, I'll be doing that from the street, sleeping in filthy clothing, but I could be wealthy beyond the dreams of avarice at that point. So.
Yes. Well, and I think that's a good point too, is that we're always learning new things. Yeah. And there's always new things that we can add and improve, and no one author has all the answers or is doing all the tricks.
Yeah.
So I think for new authors, they can feel overwhelmed. Just start with one thing at a time, and then, just add as you go and as you learn. You don't have to get
good advice.
Perfect.
Yeah, you're literally echoing what MK Williams said 2 days ago. Yeah, that's fantastic. That's such good advice. So with a newbie author, if you had to bootstrap from $0, or you just have very limited marketing budget, you're just getting going, what would you do? What would you recommend to that new indie author?
Okay, I would spend as much money as you can on great covers. Because your cover really sells the book. It attracts the eye. It telegraphs genre. It tells the audience, this is your kind of book. Yeah. That is the number one thing you can do. And then if you can, find a cheap proofreader or get some beta readers to go through it, even if you don't have enough money for a really good editor yet, but I would spend money on proofreading and editing so you have the most professional product that you can. A couple of bad reviews for terrible editing, proofreading, spelling errors can tank a book.
Yeah.
Because I think readers really expect professional quality at this point in the indie game. And then $10-15 a day on ads. Start small. Like you don't have to come in with like $100 or $200 a day ad budget. You can start very small and then work your way up as your income increases. But I think you do have to do some ads if you possibly can, even if it's $10 a day.
Oh, really? That would be effective.
I mean, it's pay to play. It's unfortunate and it's frustrating, but I think the market is so
that's what you're talking about is
if
you don't have other advantages, if you don't already have a platform, if you don't already have, if you don't have that audience built up, then you have to rely on something to get that in front of people.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. You have to get your book in front of people.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it'll just slide into oblivion because there's so many. Aren't there like 1,000, more than 1,000? How many books are published on Amazon a day? Does anybody know? Like it is
I don't know what the latest is.
We're never going to know.
Yeah, I know. I think it might be in the thousands now, but like you've got to do something to get noticed.
Yeah.
The nice thing about audiobooks is there's a lot less audiobooks being published out there. So you have less competition by the nature of the market.
Right.
Yep.
So,
yeah, there's
like are growing year over year, like exploding. Like people really love audiobooks.
Yeah, double-digit growth every year. Yeah, it's fantastic.
You have like 1,000 books a day going on Amazon, and that's just James Patterson.
Yeah, right.
And that's just James Patterson. Oh, Kevin, that's too good. Kyla, can you talk a little bit about, email is a big topic for us, for Kevin and I and other authors. What's your approach to email marketing? What's kind of your formula, emailing your fan? What kind of content do you give them? Or, talk a little bit about how you approach email.
So I don't email them as much as some authors do. I do about twice a month. And just kind of give them updates on like what I'm working on, what the book is in process, doing cover reveals. If I've got some friends in the genre who have some sales, like, hey, while you're waiting for my book, this was a good book that I enjoyed and read that I think that you will like, that type of a thing. When new audiobooks come out, I obviously put that in there and talk to them about, hey, the narrator is starting now. We're really excited. There was one time the narrator gave me some bloopers, like funny like mess ups or mistakes that she made. And so like I uploaded and sent that to the newsletter, and they really enjoyed that and thought it was really fun. Cool. So just things like that.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about what success means to you. What's your vision for success? How do you approach that? What are your thoughts there on what success means as an indie author for you personally?
Okay. And success can mean many things to many different people. For me, it was that I could make a full-time living and support my family, and that this is what I can do. There's an idea out there that writers have to have full-time jobs and write on top of that in their free time because it's a starving artist profession. But I love that a lot of indies are doing this full time and can make it their single profession. And a lot of them have retired their spouses, and like they're it for their entire family. We're not there yet. My husband's like, when can you retire me? I was like, wait, not yet.
Yeah.
But definitely that financial stability, I think is important and very freeing. And then like making my readers happy, like every email that I get, every Facebook message, like I love it when they reach out and talk to me about their favorite characters, or, I was going through chemotherapy and read all 7 of your books and it helped me like deal with that time period or whatever. Like when your stories can like make a difference in someone's life and even just bring them a little bit of joy or distraction, like I think that's really important and really meaningful. And I love that aspect of it. I love hearing from my readers. So if I have a fan base of readers who are happy with me and with my books, and love my stories, and that I'm able to do it full time, that's success for me.
Wow. That's great. Wow. Stories are at the very heart of our humanity, aren't they?
They really are.
Yeah. Yeah. And touching people. That's great, Kyla. We've got a couple questions here. I was wondering if you could answer for some of the fans in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Marie Sinajan. I have listened to a lot of audiobooks, but there seem to be two types, the narrated type and the voice acted type. Is one preferred over the other? I would think sci-fi leans more to the latter, especially the more action type of stories. So I think her question is, what do you think works well for sci-fi, the voice acted type or the kind of just plain narrated type?
I think voice acted. My narrator, Stacy, is she's a trained actress.
Mm-hmm.
So she really puts a lot of emotion into her voices.
Yeah.
I think I prefer that to just like kind of like a flat reading voice. I have seen some audiobooks where they do it kind of like a live, like a play type of a thing where they have several narrators, each voicing a different character. And sometimes they put music and sound effects to it. I don't know, you guys, if there's a specific term for that type of audiobook.
It's kind of radio play.
Radio. Yes. Yeah.
Foley artists.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that is, probably costs a lot more money, but, is really interesting too. And I wonder
Full cast, we're told.
Yes. Yeah. I wonder if that's going to become more popular as we go.
So what I'm seeing, granted, I only have a narrow window on this particular field, but what I'm seeing is that they tend to do both. They tend to do a sort of standard narrator version of the book, and then if it's really popular, they'll do a full cast kind of thing. Like I saw them do that with like American Gods, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the original narrator for American Gods was fantastic, but they came out with this like full cast narration of it, and it's amazing. But there's two products there,
Right. That's interesting too. Yeah. Because the more products that you can make out of your IP, right? Like, or with translations or any of that, you are like, yeah. That's a good idea too.
Yeah.
I like it.
Pricey, pricey though.
Yeah.
Pretty pricey, but like you said, it's like you said earlier. You got to roll some money back in, and you have to basically figure out, is this going to return more than I put in? If so, then that's an instant yes, right?
Yep.
Unless it's going to bankrupt you to try to
right. Don't bankrupt yourself.
Yeah.
We're not advising that.
If you take anything out of this webinar, it's don't bankrupt yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay within your budget.
Yeah, and true. Like we were talking about, like releasing the audiobook and the paperback and the ebook at the same time. If you're a newer author, you're probably not ready for that yet, right? You might need to make some money with the ebook before you can put an audiobook out for your next few books, and that's okay too. Yeah. Like you're building up. In each step, you can put more money in as you get higher and higher, and then increase your reader and listener base. It's time. It's not an overnight thing. It takes time to build.
Yeah, it sure does. Yep. We've got a question from Grace Buchanan. I love the sciences, especially speculation about what might be, and I love intelligent challenges and adventure. Does a sci-fi book come to mind that I might enjoy, especially one that you wrote and had recorded by an especially talented narrator? So,
okay.
She's looking for a recommendation for one of your books, it sounds like, Kyla.
Okay. I would recommend my Edge of Collapse series, starting with book 1, Edge of Collapse. And it's 7 books and it's completed, and they are all on audio and done by Stacy Glimboski, who is very talented. She does a great job.
Awesome. That's great. Fantastic. Well, Kyla, we're at the end of our hour, and I'd love to tell everyone in the audience, if you can tell everyone where they can find you on the internet. What's your website?
Okay. My website's kylastone.com. I'm on Facebook, Kyla Stone author. you can message me. You can join my newsletter. You can email me, kylastone@yahoo.com. Also Amazon, Audible, Findaway, like all
the things.
iTunes, all the things.
Yeah, that's great. This has been a super fun hour, Kyla. Thank you so much for taking the time today with us.
Thank you very much. And thanks for your patience with the internet.
No worries at all.
It all worked out just fine.
It worked out A-okay. Yeah.
We did have people who were like popped in a little late who were like, where's
Kyla? Why are these
why am I looking at these two buffoons? Yeah. Where's our whole reason for being
the talent?
Here?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy. That's great. Well, thanks again, Kevin. Super sad our series is over.
Oh yeah.
We'll do something again here soon. Yeah.
Yes.
Another collab between Drafted Digital and Findaway Voices. So thank you so much, Kyla. I really appreciate your time today and all your insights. Learned so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Awesome. All right. Well, everyone have a great rest of your day.
And a great rest of your month. The audiobook month is over.
Yes.
Yep.
Now we have a whole other year to wait.
Yep.
But take care of yourselves, everybody.
See ya. Bye-bye.